Hello everyone, I am Slash Raptor and welcome to my channel. In this episode, I'm going to be ranking every Marvel Cinematic Universe movie ever from worst to best, based purely on pure enjoyment. I'm not going to be spending a lot of time on it because we'd be here for a very long time. There is all 23 movies as of now. I'm filming this in August of 2020. So let's get started and go in here. But first, I want to change the color of this to this, and yeah, that works. Okay, so let's start off in chronological order with the movies. The original Iron Man, we're going to put that up here. It was a good movie. I really liked it. It started the entire MCU franchise. Robert Downey Jr. was fantastic as Tony Stark. He was funny. There was action. The special effects were fantastic. There were a lot of good, funny moments, and it balanced the humor and the story really well. And it was just a really solid, enjoyable movie. So that was good. Now we move on to The Incredible Hulk, which is not okay. It's just meh. Actually, I think we'll change this to meh. And yeah, we'll put that there. I personally like the Ang Lee Hulk movie better, but that's because it got the character a lot better, and you actually got to see him become the Hulk. Whereas in the Incredible Hulk, he was already the Hulk, and you didn't really get to see the accident. And I thought that the Hulk just looked a lot cooler, and I felt that Ang Lee's Hulk really understood the way that he would rampage. But the Incredible Hulk movie is not bad, but it's definitely one of the worst movies in the entire MCU. Eric Eric Bana, I think, was a better choice for the role, and I really didn't like Edward Norton or Liv Tyler or really any of the characters that they had. Like the actors, they just I don't think they were right for the part. So Incredible Hulk is there, and it's also the only one I think that was actually a Paramount movie. And after they realized that that was kind of ugh, they never did it again. So Incredible Hulk, we'll put that as a meh, and then next up we would have Iron Man 2, which is where? Where's Iron Man 2? Where is that? Here it is. Iron Man 2. Iron Man 2, when it first came out, when I first watched it, I liked it. Not quite as good as the first one. It's just, it's okay. I don't think it's as bad as the Incredible Hulk, but I don't think it's nearly as good as the original one. So we'll put it in the likable tier. It was very samey, and it felt like they were reaching for straws with a lot of the plot lines, and they introduced some characters in there that really didn't need to be in there, and I think there was just a bit too much going on, like Justin Hammer and Ivan Vanko. I think they should have had one or the other, but you had Ivan Vanko, who was like the main villain, and then you had Justin Hammer, who was like almost the main villain, and he was kind of evil, but he wasn't really. He just wanted to beat Tony Stark, and then you had the whole thing with Rhodey, and you had the whole thing with Natasha like with the like Natasha or whatever she was calling herself. I mean, Scarlett Johansson in that movie has never looked better. She is effing insanely gorgeous because she was like only 26 when she was in that movie. She was smoking hot. I'm not to say that she's ugly now, but this is the one where I was really like, wow. Oh. Because I knew her as the voice of Mindy, and in the interviews for the SpongeBob SquarePants movie that they did on like the DVD extras, they had bad lighting on her, and she had different kind of makeup on, so she looked kind of yeah. But then you see her in this one, and holy lord, she is insanely hot. So yeah, but again, movie storyline, it's just not that great. It was just kind of campy and cheesy. So moving on from Iron Man 2, what comes after Iron Man 2? Oh, Thor. Thor 1, it's not bad, but it's just kind of we'll put that in good. I enjoyed the first one. It was okay. The only thing I didn't like about it was how Thor gets banished to Earth because he was a kind of a stuck-up, bratty jerk, spoiled, and just kind of like he was just he really needed to learn a lesson. So it makes sense that they banished him. but he didn't really learn a lesson. He went to Earth, and then, like, immediately upon arriving there, he just had a completely different change of personality because he met Natalie Portman and wanted to get into her pants. So, by recklessly endangering his life, which is one of the things that he got banished for in the first place, by trying to take on that giant sentinel thing without his powers, was for some reason the thing that helped him get his powers back. Like, that never made sense to me. I mean, for the sake of the movie and for the sake of, like, he finally is worthy, it made sense. But think about what he actually does while he's on Earth. He starts fights, and all he's trying to do is get his hammer back. And he just, yeah, like, I don't think he really learned a lesson. But by the time we see him in the next movies, then he's acting like what I would expect him to have been acting like when he finally was deemed worthy again at the end of the first Thor movie. But the Thor movie had a lot of funny bits. I actually thought that, like, Thor, when he first got there, like, I thought that there was a lot of good humor when he first got there, like the hammer, yeah, we can tell you're hammered, or like how they tase him, or when he's like, they're like, when at the hospital they give him the shot in his butt, and he's like, ugh. There was a lot of funny bits, but in terms of it being like an action movie, it's okay. Next up would be Captain America. I really like the original Captain America movie, but I know that it's not the best one, so I'll put it up here in likable. I got really hooked on it. I really like the montage, and I really like the way that they characterized him at the beginning, and I like how we followed him through this journey. And I thought that like his origin story was really well done, but I didn't like how they showed things in the montage that would have been better out of the montage, and things out of the montage that would have been better in the montage. And the main villains were kind of forgettable, but it was basically just Agent Smith with a kind of a bad attempt at a German accent. But Red Skull was pretty creepy, and I like how we're starting to see like foreshadowing of things that are going to happen eventually, like with the Tesseract. And I like how this is when we finally started to feel like the movies were going to be interconnected. And I like how they handled the whole thing about how Cap gets frozen, and there was a lot of good in it, but it was kind of weirdly paced, and I don't know, it could have been better, but it was a decent attempt. So I'll put it in the likable tier. Next up, I think we go to the Avengers. Avengers 1, incredible. One of my favorite movies ever made. I love the Avengers 1. And that finishes us off for Marvel Phase 1. So now we're going to move on to Phase 2. Phase 2 is where things started to get better. So the next one on the list would be Iron Man 3. I did not like Iron Man 3 at all. I thought it was dumb. It did not feel like an Iron Man movie at all to me. I know I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for this, but it just didn't feel like an Iron Man movie. When you have the same director directing the first two movies of something and then they switch, there's always a chance that the third one's just not going to be the same. And I mean, Tony Stark was there, but he wasn't really being Tony Stark. He was a lot more serious, and there was a lot, like, the whole plot thing was kind of weird, and it felt like a weird spy. And it felt like a weird spy espionage thing, and like it just had a weird feeling to it, and I didn't really like that. And I was kind of confused as to how the plot was going, because it made you think that the Mandarin was going to be the main thing, and I like how they pulled the rug out from under us by trying something different with the character, and it turns out that he actually wasn't the main villain. But I didn't really understand the relationship between how we got from the Mandarin is bad, I want him dead, to this guy has like skin that can catch fire, and like how he was related to Tony's past. I didn't really get that. It just didn't click. So yeah, no matter how many times I rewatch it, I just never get into it. It feels very slow paced, and the action scenes aren't the greatest, and I don't know, it felt like it was out of place to me, so I did not care for that one bit. But I'm actually starting to forget the order that they go in. So it was Iron Man 2, it was Iron Man 3, and then I think it was And I think it was The Winter Soldier was next. The Winter Soldier is a very good movie. We're gonna put that. Yeah, we're gonna put that in the best. I really like that one. That one was really cool. And then I felt like Captain America in the 21st Century was really good. It felt kind of like an extension of the Avengers movie, and I really liked that. And I like the concept of how Hydra had like been working behind the scenes and secretly infecting Shield. And I liked how Cap was a renegade, and I liked how it was him against everyone else. It had fantastic action sequences. It had some interesting new characters. The set pieces were fantastic. There was just a lot of awesome stuff going on, and I really, really loved it. The action and everything. It was fantastic. One of the best movies in the entire franchise. So then Captain America 2, and now I think it would be Thor 2. And Thor 2 I'm going to put down here. Thor 2, it gets better, but it starts off kind of bad. It's not a bad movie, and it has a very important role in the story, but I actually never saw it when I first started watching the movies, and I was not missing anything when we got further on. So I ended up actually having to go back and watch that one, as well as Iron Man 3. Like, it turns out that the two movies that I skipped because I just never saw them, they just never ended. Like, maybe it was because I never saw them when they first came out or whatever, or maybe it was just because I could just kind of tell that it was just going to be bad. But, like, I really didn't like the first Thor the first time I watched it. And then I had to go back and watch it again and a couple of more times, and then I started to really like it. But then I never watched Thor 2 just because it wasn't really that great. And Iron Man 2 was already kind of meh, so I wasn't really tempted to go see Iron Man 3. So it turns out that, and also, The Incredible Hulk was another one that I skipped over entirely. I didn't even know that movie existed because there was not a lot of trailers for it or anything. So you'll notice that it just so happens that a lot of the ones that I skipped are ones that I ended up not really liking. But Thor 2, it did have a lot of interesting things, but it felt weird, and it felt like it should have been like a side story in a bigger movie that shows like what Thor did to go get this. Like, I feel like they could have put that in Age of Ultron, and like the whole thing where Jane gets sick and the Dark Elves, that was just kind of weird. And they like the red stone, like how is it how is it the red Infinity Stone if it's like this red goop that's floating in space that's making people sick? And I like how that one felt like a direct sequel to the first one because it had characters that returned. But again, you can skip it entirely and you won't miss anything because not a lot of important things happen. Like, Loki dies at the end, but he's not really dead, and the Dark Elves were very forgettable, and like Thor's mother dies, but again, you can skip it and you're not missing anything. So yeah, not that great of a movie. So Thor: The Dark World, and now I think Ant-Man is next, and Ant-Man was good. I liked Ant-Man. I'll put it over here. Ant-Man, it was okay. I'll put it up here. Yeah, again, it kind of felt a little weird. Like it felt like like a fan fiction story at first, and it was very like self-contained, and it had like very little to do with the overall story arc. And even the second Ant-Man was another self-contained thing, and it wasn't until Endgame where Scott finally ends up being like involved with the Avengers, because in Ant-Man he meets one of the Avengers and he's going to their base, but it's not an Avengers movie. It's like a very basic mission that doesn't really have a lot of importance, and it's kind of just like a quest for vengeance for Scott, or like, well, not Scott, Hank, right? Yeah, Hank Pym, the old guy. I forget his name, but yeah, it's Scott's the one in the suit, and then Hank Pym is the one that made it. But I really like how they brought in Evangeline Lilly because she's gorgeous and Canadian, and I loved her on Lost, and she was fucking gorgeous on that show. And she looks amazing for considering that she's already like in her 40s. She looks exactly the same as she did on Lost. I didn't like that short hairstyle they gave her in the movie though. And then Ant-Man and the Wasp, they gave her long hair, and she looks much better that way. And that suit, left very little to the imagination, so I really like that. But Ant-Man, it was kind of funny. I don't know, it kind of felt like a made-for-TV movie a little bit. Not quite as like much of an epic spectacle, more of a whimsical kind of funny movie, but not a bad movie. And then we come to the Avengers 2, Age of Ultron. Age of Ultron is okay. It's definitely the weakest of the Avengers movies, in my opinion. Um, I don't know. Ultron was. I didn't like the idea of Ultron. I thought that. I guess. I don't know. I'm not a comic book person, so I don't know if they did it. If they did him justice. I don't know if that's how he was in the comics, but I didn't like how he was created, and then what felt like 45 seconds later, he already knew how to speak and knew how to make pop culture references and knew how to do sarcasm and like he I don't know. Like I feel like I wish there was a bit more of explanation as to why he became evil instead of him just going, "Oh my God, this is the real world. I'm gonna destroy everything." And the action set pieces were just as good. Maybe not in the same extent. There were some new characters added that ended up becoming staples. The team still worked together beautifully, but I think the problem that I had with it the most is that in the first Avengers movie, they're forced to come together because they need to come together to stop Loki's invasion of New York. In the second Avengers movie, the movie starts right in the middle of a mission, and they've already come together. But the whole point of the first Avengers movie was that you take all of the different characters that we've seen throughout these movies, and then they come together into one crossover. But the crossover is like one of the most important parts of it. And if the crossover happens off screen and starts up with them already working together, then it loses something. So it felt like because they were already together from the start, it didn't feel like there was as much urgency and like it didn't feel like the stakes were very high. So it was like, oh no, this one city is going to be destroyed by robots. Like, whatever, just leave it, save everybody else, and just let the city go away. Just blow it up or whatever. Like, but anyway, yeah, not a bad movie, but there was a couple of characters that saved it. So I'll give it likable. Now we move on to Phase 3. And I'm having a hard time remembering which one was the first one of Phase 3. Oh, we haven't done Guardians of the Galaxy yet. That would have been in Phase 2. And obviously that goes up here. Fantastic. One of the things that I thought was interesting about Guardians of the Galaxy is that I had never heard of the Guardians of the Galaxy before in my life. So I didn't even know it was a Marvel movie. And then I was kind of reluctant to see it because it didn't really look that interesting. But then I did, and it was fucking amazing. These characters come out of nowhere, and their story is just so well told, and it's hilarious, and the characters work so well together, and the music is fantastic, the soundtrack is fantastic, everything about it just works perfectly, and it almost works as if like they're not even trying, like it was just meant to work. It was beautifully done, and for a movie about a team that were virtually no ones, unless you're one of those really hardcore comic book geeks that knows every single character ever made, I thought it was really cool how they took these characters and they ended up making one of the best movies from one of the most obscure comics. So yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy, easily one of the best movies they've ever made. All right, now who's next? I think after that it would be. I think after that it would be Civil War. Civil War is a good movie. I think that they could have done a bit more with the Civil War concept, and I think that the reason why they're fighting doesn't make a lot of sense because it's a much bigger story arc. And the other thing, like the Sokovia Awards, yes, that's a thing in the comics. Like this is one of the only things about the comics that I know, but something catastrophic happens and the teams are definitely split and they're like hostile against each other and they are like killing each other. But in the Avengers Civil War movie, they were just fighting for the sake of fighting so that they could say, hey, look, there's it's Avengers versus Avengers. Like the airport fight was fantastic. It was still funny. The action was still good. But I like how the overarching storyline was that they were being manipulated by this overseeing guy who wanted revenge for something. And I thought that was really well done. But I feel like they should have either focused on the Civil War thing or the revenge thing. And I think that because they tried, it almost felt like they just tried to tie together two movies that weren't supposed to be together, and it worked for what it was. But like, I don't get why people were supposed to think that Bucky was the one that bombed things, and how that has anything to do with the Sokovia Accords. It seems like the Sokovia Accords just so happened to start at the same time as Helmut Zemo was pulling strings. But I liked how they were able to finally bring Bucky full circle, and I liked how Steve was the one that wanted to believe in him, and I like the concept of how there was a bunch of other Winter Soldiers, and I liked a lot of it. But the actual conflict between Civil War, like the actual title thing, was barely even in there. Like, even when they're fighting each other, they're doing it like they're still like best friends. It looked more like they were sparring. But of course, the introduction of Spider-Man and seeing all those characters on the same time, and a lot of other good things that they did, like bringing in Black Panther and a lot of cool characters, that was really well done. So I'll give it a good. Moving on, what's the next one? I think the next one is either Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Doctor Strange, or Spider-Man Homecoming. I think it's Spider-Man Homecoming was next. Spider-Man Homecoming is a really good movie. I think that it's better cinematically in terms of like how it works, and I feel like it's a better movie overall than the Sam Raimi movies. But the Sam Raimi movies have been there so long that they're not the Sam Raimi movies. But it's also a very good attempt. But I think it's undeniable that Tom Holland is easily the best Peter Parker / Spider-Man we've ever had. And I really like the concept of how he's in high school. I liked his relationship with everyone. I liked how they finally made Aunt May not be an old hag. Like, Rosemary Harris from the Sam Raimi movies was great, but why was Aunt May so much older than Peter's mother would be? Unless she's actually like his great aunt. She's like double the age of what you would expect Aunt May to be. And I like how in this one they had already introduced Spider-Man, so I like how they didn't have to do his origin story again. I feel like I feel like Tobey Maguire was a decent Peter Parker, and and Andrew Garfield was a decent Spider-Man. But Tom Holland brings them both together perfectly, and I like how he was. It was almost like the boy who cried wolf, and I like how because he is just a kid, he's not allowed to come into the bigger things. But when he finally finds one, nobody believes him, so it comes to him to kind of prove himself. And I like how I just like how it kind of connected really well with all the other stories. Like, it was dealing with the aftermath of the first Avengers movie. Vulture's crew gets fired, and then they start stealing some of the leftover, like, alien things that the Chitauri left behind in New York. And I like how it was like you could see that like the aftermath of one movie was affecting another one, and I liked how it fit in there really nicely, and it was a nice way of finally bringing Spider-Man back into the fold. And again, probably a better movie overall than Sam Raimi, but that doesn't mean that Sam Raimi's movies are any less enjoyable, because Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies were like the greatest thing ever when they first came out. So I'll give Spider-Man 1 a best, and then I think it would be Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Guardians of the Galaxy 2, again, very good movie, very funny, but I don't think it's quite as good as the first one. I don't really like it that much, but it is a good movie, so I'm torn. I don't know if I want to put it in likable or if I want to put it in good. I would probably put it somewhere in the middle, but I can't really do that. So, I guess I'll just go here. The trailer for Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was better than the movie. The movie had like a lot of slow parts, and the plot wasn't quite as fast paced, and like it the you know like there wasn't like an immediate evil, because it seemed like there wasn't really a villain until right at the very end, when like whatever Peter's father's name was. I forget what it was. I forget his name. I forget what Kurt Russell's character's name was. I'm blanking completely. Anyway, but I like how it's basically the exact same thing, but just more Guardians of the Galaxy. And I like they introduced more characters. They gave they let us see different sides of other characters, like Daryl, like Merle Dixon's character. What's his name? something Rondu, like I'm Mary Poppins, y'all, and of course, um, Baby Groot, adorable, and I like how we were finally seeing another side of Nebula, and there was a lot of interesting things that happened in this one, but like I don't know, it just it felt a little. It didn't flow quite as nicely as the original Guardians did. But again, it still has all the same great characters, all the same great humor, and all the same great acting, and the characters really make the movie. But I don't know, the story just wasn't quite as good, so I'll put it as good. Doctor Strange, I'm kind of neutral on. I didn't hate the movie. It was a little different, but then again, Doctor Strange is a little bit of a different character. I didn't really like Doctor Strange as a character in that movie because he starts off being kind of a dick. Like Rachel McAdams totally wants to bone him, and he blows her off completely. Like if Rachel McAdams came to any of your houses and says, "Hi, do you want to have sex?" I'd be like, "Yes, absolutely, let's do this." But instead, he blows her off, and like I it's really hard to relate to him. But once he finally, like pulls the stick out of his ass and starts opening his mind up to the mystic, then it became a little bit more interesting. But again, it suffers from a thing that a lot of movies suffer from, where in like a very short amount of time, Doctor Strange goes from becoming kind of a crappy wizard to the most insanely powerful wizard ever, and the transition happens just instantly. But I loved the ending on how he pulled the fast one over on Dormammu. I thought that was fantastic, and he played that spell so that he'll just keep dying over and over again, and all the ways that Dormammu killed him was really funny, and how he finally was able to bargain to have him leave Earth alone was awesome. And there was some incredible special effects in Doctor Strange, like the stuff with the mirror fights, and it was like an acid trip. But in terms of a movie, it's just okay. Like again, likable movie, not terrible, not by a long shot, but it's okay. I'm wondering if the second one will be better. Okay, so now I think that means it's time for Black Panther, and you're not gonna like me at all for this, but I really did not like Black Panther at all. I thought it was stupid. The thing that bothered me about Black Panther is that the character of T'Challa got more development in Civil War than he did in his respective movie. I like the concept of what's it called, of Wakanda. I like the concept of it. I like the movie itself is not poorly made by a long shot, but it's not really that funny. There's a lot of scenes that take place in darkness. The characters are all kind of one dimensional, and there's not really much of a story to the movie. Like T'Challa already proved himself worthy when he chose not to kill Helmut Zemo in Civil War. His quest for vengeance, he saw what it would have turned him into, and he said, "No, I'm not going to kill you. You did this. I'm going to let you live." And then he just left. He dealt with his thing, and I thought that his motivations were really powerful, and he was coming to grips with his new powers and how he was mourning for his father, and I like how he got involved with the Civil War thing, and I thought that he was beautifully incorporated into Civil War. But now that all that's done, what is there to do with T'Challa? So they tried to strip him down, but it didn't really work because you knew that he was going to get right back up again and win in the end. So there was no point trying to strip him down. And I thought the story was kind of stupid. I don't know, like there was just a lot of stuff happening that seemed to be there for the sake of being there, like the arms dealer guy, Gollum's actor, what's his name? Andy Andy Serkis didn't accomplish anything. And like there was a lot of like they were trying to force a romance between not I don't know all the names of the characters. I really just don't give a shit. I liked how they had Michonne from the Walking Dead in there. That was cool. And like the play, the Wakanda itself was beautifully realized, but the movie itself just it didn't need to exist. And again, Black Panther. I had never heard of him before in my life. I had no idea who the hell Black Panther was. So yeah, I really did not like Black Panther at all. I think it was really overrated, and I thought that it was just. I think the only reason that it got so much critical praise was because because everybody in the movie except for like two actors was black, and that's not a good reason to like a movie. The movie should be given good ratings because it's a good movie, not because everyone's black. So yeah, I really was not impressed with Black Panther at all. I still own it, but I've never watched it since I saw it in theaters. Um, so then Black Panther, I think, leads directly into Avengers Infinity War, and Infinity War is a fantastic movie. I was a little worried when I saw that Joss Whedon wasn't going to be directing the third Avengers movie because I'm think that the reason why the first two Avengers worked is because Joss Whedon has a very distinct style, and I think it just worked beautifully for those first two movies. But the second one wasn't that good. Like it wasn't as funny, and the characters were already there. Like nothing, there's nothing bad about the Avengers 2, but Avengers Infinity War was even. Oh my god! Like I don't even know where to start. Like when the first Avengers movie came out, bringing four characters from four separate movies together into one movie had never been done before. It was unheard of, and they pulled it off, and it worked so well. The entire movie was hinging on whether or not they were able to do that, and they did it, and it worked perfectly. So now they can only go up. So with every subsequent Marvel movie, or not Marvel movie, with every subsequent Avengers movie, they've had to try and like one up themselves, and they did that a little bit in Age of Ultron by introducing a few new characters. But it was still the main. It was still the main four that started off at Avengers. But now, when it comes time for Infinity War, there's been so many more characters in so many more movies, and bringing all of them together into one movie makes bringing just the four characters together in the original Avengers movie feel like nothing. There are a few characters in the movie that don't really have a lot of. Oh, we forgot to do Ragnarok. I'll do Ragnarok after that, even though Ragnarok should happen before it. But there's a lot of things in that. There was a lot of things in that movie in Infinity War that really really worked well, and I love how they, because there were so many characters, they had to break up each of the characters into different groups, and the different groups and how all of these different stories were all like rotating around the main central plot thing of destroying Thanos worked so well. Like Tony and Doctor Strange and Spider-Man were off going to were sent back to his home planet, and then they meet up with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and then those guys all try and go after Thor, or go after Thanos. Thor, Rocket, and a couple of other characters go off to get a new weapon for Thor so that he can stand up to that. And then you've got Vision and Wanda who are off on a lovers thing for some reason. Like that was weird to me. Why is like Vision is a robot? Like he's like a computer program, and they're like having sex and making out in somewhere in Europe. Like yeah, I don't know, that was weird. But um and I like how Captain America and all the characters from Captain America, the second Captain America movie, like Falcon, Cap, and then Natasha. I like how they all came out of hibernation to come and join up with Vision and Wanda, and there was a big fight there. So all of these different groups of peoples all had their own different thing that they were trying to do. And Thanos was just this incredibly powerful person, and he just got even stronger with everything. And they were finally killing things, and it's like, oh my god, they actually killed a character. And of course, the snap at the end, and just oh my god, there was like that. There was so much that could have gone wrong in that movie, but nothing did. The only thing I can say is that some characters were a little bit underdeveloped, and it was a little anticlimactic, but they did that on purpose because you have to go into that movie knowing that it was originally going to be part one of two, because the original name for that movie was going to be Avengers Infinity War Part 1, and then they were going to do Avengers Infinity War Part 2, but Part 2 ended up becoming renamed to Endgame, so then they just dropped the Part 1 from Infinity War. But I loved everything, how they were revisiting all these places, and I loved how finally, after all this time, all of the Infinity Stones came together, and the Infinity Glove, and the giant weapon that Tyrion Lannister made for Thor, and Baby Groot come. Oh my god, there was just so much freaking awesome stuff in there, and it was every bit as good as I hoped it would be, and better. I was expecting Avengers 3 to be okay or like decent, but I had no idea that it was going to be that good and surpass the original Avengers in terms of spectacle and action and epicness. Oh my god, I could talk about Avengers Infinity War forever, but we've got more movies to do. So, Thor Ragnarok. Thor Ragnarok is also an amazing movie. Thor Ragnarok, again, you don't really have to watch it because it doesn't really do anything, but the stuff that it does do is freaking hilarious. That is easily the funniest movie I've ever seen, and they changed Thor a lot, and it worked out fantastically because he used to be kind of like, oh, my, like high and mighty, but in that one, they took him down a few pegs and they made him a bit of a joker, and it worked really well. The movie was refreshing, and it was easily the best movie that Thor's had on his own so far. Fantastic music, fantastic characters, fantastic humor, and pretty interesting stakes. I like how they brought back a character that we didn't even know existed, and I liked how it was kind of a non-linear story and how it was kind of like a weird side trip, and I liked the way that they brought Bruce back, and like I had actually almost forgot that the Hulk went away at the end of Avengers Infinity War, or at the end of Avengers 2. I had completely forgotten about that, but I like how he was there and how they got together with Loki and they got together with the Rock guy and they made their own team and they were going up against Hela's army, and I liked how everything just worked together, and it was a really great movie. It was hilarious and it was funny, and oh, they did a really great job with that. And yeah, there's just so much to love about that movie. But I think it's not quite as good as Avengers Infinity War, but it's easily the best Thor movie so far. So what they should have done, they didn't, but what they should have done is after Avengers they should have ended Phase 3, because Phase 3 was already longer than any of the other phases. So then after the Avengers Infinity War, then goes Ant-Man and the Wasp. Ant-Man and the Wasp is okay. I didn't like it quite as much as the other one. There was some good comedy in there, but again, it was such a small, minor thing, and it had like all the while the Avengers are fighting the biggest battle in their entire careers against Thanos. Meanwhile, Ant-Man and the Wasp are trying to bring back the Wasp's mother. That's it. That's the entire thing, and all this chaotic shit happens, but none of it is a result of what they're trying to do. It's because they need technology for this chick who's like flashing in and out, and then you got this weird southern guy that thinks he's cool and wants to get the weapons, and then you've got the annoying Spanish guy and those guys. Like Michael Pena or whatever his name is, he's supposed to be funny. You know, the guy that does those long run-on stories. I thought he was so annoying, and I just wanted to punch him. But the relationship between the three main characters, Hank, Scott, and Hope, I thought was great. And I thought that there was really some good action, and I thought it was a bit more action-packed and a bit more exciting than the first one, but I don't know, it's just not, I don't know, it didn't really, resonate with me that well. Still, not a horrible movie by any stretch of the imagination, but it was just okay. It's solid, but I don't know. The Ant-Man movies are just kind of the weird ones of the bunch. I think the Ant-Man was better known for its incredible special effects to make him look small than it was about the actual story itself. Moving on, Captain Marvel. I did not like Captain Marvel at all. Captain Marvel was dumb. I didn't like it at all. I thought Brie Larson was boring. I thought the entire story was meaningless, and I thought that the whole girl power thing was kind of an unneeded thing. Yes, it's cool how she's the first main female protagonist out of any movie, but if she's so powerful, why didn't they call on her when Loki attacked Earth? Why didn't they call on her when Ultron was attacking? Why didn't they call on her when Thanos was originally trying to get the Infinity Stones in the first place? If she had come down and defeated Thanos before he could have gotten the Infinity things, nothing after the snap would have happened. And the only reason that they didn't call her is because she physically did not exist until they decided she existed at the end of Infinity War, where we just see that Nick Fury had this thing the entire time and never decided once until right then that maybe it would be a good time to use this thing and call Captain Marvel, and they hype her up in that movie as being easily the most powerful character in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, and she's able to single-handedly defeat like an entire armada of aliens. And the story was weird. Like she went back to the 90s, but like for most of it, I couldn't even understand what the hell was going on. Like, what was she trying to do? Like, what are these? Like, what is she? She's a human, but she was raised with this breed of warriors, and that like the aliens that are attacking them aren't even really evil to begin with. So why are they attacking? And it was crap. I really didn't like the movie. And Brie Larson is a really good actress, but I did not like her at all in that movie. And she also they didn't do her makeup in a way that made her attractive. She looked very mannish and her flat chested, and she had a square ass, and she was boring. And like the entire time she was in that movie, she just seemed unenthused. Even during scenes where she was kind of bonding with Nick Fury, where it seemed like they should have been like it could have been like a buddy cop movie. He was the funny one, and she was just kind of, yeah, okay, whatever. And she was like that throughout the entire movie. And then, the entire reason that they made that movie was so that they could bring her into Avengers Endgame, and she did absolutely nothing in that entire movie. She did nothing. She came down, helped, like, barely even participated when they went to kill Thanos, because it was Thor that killed Thanos, because, he could now, because Thanos was basically dead already. And then that was it. She left, 5 years pass, and she doesn't come back the entire time until the very, very end. And even then, she doesn't even participate in the battle. What's the point of hyping her up and introducing the character to the franchise if she literally does nothing? The most important thing that she did in the entirety of Avengers Endgame was she carried the spaceship that Nebula and Tony Stark were stuck on after the events of Infinity War. That was all she did. And then, even when she was fighting Thanos, with the Thanos that, and keep in mind, this is alternate dimension Thanos, or alternate timeline Thanos, because the Thanos that actually had the Infinity Glove is dead. They killed him, and then the one that they were fighting in Endgame was the one from the past that never even acquired any of the Infinity Gauntlets, and he was even stronger than the original Thanos, because some characters that should have easily been able to at least damage him did nothing, and he seemed even more powerful without the gloves than without them. And like, if Captain Marvel literally has the power of an entire Infinity Stone flowing through her body, then why did she get taken out with a single punch by an unpowered up Thanos? It made no sense. But yeah, I really did not like that movie. Spider-Man Far From Home is fantastic. I loved. Oh, wait, no, we're jumping ahead one. This should be down here. Avengers Endgame, very, very, very good movie, but much slower paced than Infinity War, and it was a wonderful follow up, and it was a great movie, but nowhere near as action packed until the very end. Not really as funny, but I liked how it was a great continuation, and I liked the bond, and I liked the concept, and I liked how they were going back in time, and I like how Scott finally got to play a big role in a main series storyline as opposed to just going on side missions with Hank Pym. So I really liked an Endgame, but I don't think it's nearly as good as Avengers and Infinity War. It's a good movie, but it's very, very slow paced. It kind of drags on in some parts, but it is a very satisfying ending to the main series of the MCU. So I think that if you consider Infinity War and Endgame as one movie, it's a fantastic ending to the thing. So I thought that was great. And Spider-Man Far From Home is even better than Homecoming. I loved how they secretly had. I loved how they made it seem like the villain was going to be something completely different. The Elementals, which is a thing that doesn't exist in any of the Spider-Man comics, because Spider-Man is the only one that I actually know a decent amount about from the comics, because I watched the 90s cartoons, which was very accurate to the comic books. So I would have known if there were these big giant elementals, and I loved how they never showed anything about Mysterio in the trailers except for the fact that his character was in there, so that you were led to believe that he was a good guy, or that you just knew that he was there. And I loved how this whole time, all of the elementals, they were just holograms. I thought that was brilliant, and I loved the climax, and I loved the tension, and I love how it really how he basically had almost won, and then Spider-Man made a huge comeback right at the end and kicked his ass. I thought that was great. It was even better than Homecoming, and I loved the cliffhanger that they set up for, which is why I thought it was hilarious when there was this big dispute about how Spider-Man might leave the MCU. No, he's not. If you put a cliffhanger like that in any movie, he's not going anywhere. So eventually they came to an agreement, and then he stayed where he was, and it's like, yeah, whatever. I was never worried. I knew he was going to come back, just like how I knew there's going to be a Guardians of the Galaxy 3 even after they fired Sean Gunn, because I knew he'd come back eventually. He got fired for like the stupidest reason, so I don't even know why they fired him in the first place. But yeah, Far From Home was really, really good. But again, the only thing I don't like about this Spider-Man is I don't like Zendaya. I don't dislike Zendaya herself. I don't like her character. She seems like she's just very unenthused about everything, and she's a very attractive girl, but they do not do a very good job of making her attractive. They don't put a lot of makeup on her, so she's kind of mannish, and just her character is very deadpan and sarcastic, and I don't really like it. She just seems like she's bored all the time. She's clearly playing a character, but I don't like that character. I liked the girl he liked better in Homecoming better, Laura Harrier. She was really pretty. And she's old too. Like, she was like 33 when she did that movie, and she looked like she was 17. It was pretty cool. But yeah, Zendaya, But I liked how Samuel Jackson and Agent Hill were basically saying, "Look, Spider-Man, I know you're on vacation, but you got to come help us. There's all these other characters that we could easily talk to, but we're not going to talk to them. We want to talk to you because reasons." But yeah, I thought that the idea of him being on vacation was great. I thought the idea of him having to balance between his summer vacation and his responsibilities as Spider-Man was great. So yeah, I thought that there's a lot of solid movies in here. There's very few bad movies in the MCU. If for me, I would say that anything in the meh, dumb, or stupid is considered bad. But there's so much else that's above there that's great. And and the best section has the most movies in it out of all of the movies in here. So yeah, that is my opinion on every single Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments down below if you agree or disagree with my opinions. Tell me where you would rank them. Tell me if you agree with all my decisions. Let me know what your favorites are. Do you like some of the movies that I really didn't like? Tell me why you like them. And if you like what you see and you want to see more videos from me, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to be a really, really cool person, there's a link to my Patreon in the description of this video, as well as basically every single other video that I've made. Go over there, take a look at the link, and if you're in a position where you can help me out, that'd be awesome. All I'm asking is like a couple of dollars, and then you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. So if you can give me some cool stuff, then I'll do my best to give you some cool stuff with the money that I receive. Because I've had that thing open for about a year now, and I have no one giving me any money at all. So definitely something needs to be done about this. But anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the near future for another video. Peace out. Bye.